My name is Ella Vastie Kelley, and I'd like to leave the Vastie out, but it was asked why was that significant. You know, Ella Vastie Kelley was my name. Significant. I was named for two grandmothers, so that was, I guess, a little significant. And Ella Kelley was my grandma, my daddy's mother, and Vastie Abbott. Vastie was her name, and they called her Vastie. Abbott was my mother's mother, and I was born on Rockland Road, Klondike Road, close to Rockland Road. The church and the school were very near and handy. On Rockland Road, you turn left, and my grandfather's and grandmother lived about 100 yards from the road. We lived in the tenant house, my granddaddy's tenant house, and they were farmers, and my grandfather and grandmother were both families were farmers, because most people were then, I guess. My father was Grady Lee Kelley, and my mother was Dini Abbott. It was very nice that we lived that close, because Mama and Dad were farmers, and Mama would go to the field with my daddy, and Grandma and two aunts would keep the children. So one of these aunts was Adeline, and she was my favorite in that family. She mentored me all the way through high school, and was just all of my life. She was just a great person, because Mama had so many children and she didn't have to. She was involved with my life. So she was very interested in Mama's children, because she lived right on the next street, parallel, you know, just about almost, if you could have walked straight across just 100 yards or so, but we had to go up the railroad track to get to her house. And she was always seeing about us, you know, just helping Mama out a little. I was born December 7th, 1914. I was born just 11 years after Henry Ford put cars on wheels, the assembly line, and the Wright brothers did the airplanes. My grandfather and grandmother Kelley had the first. There were two cars in the community. One was the Maxwell, and the other one was my grandfather Kelley's. My grandmother Abbott had the first phone I ever heard, and it was a party line. And Mr. Alf Howard lived up next door to us, up the street, up the road, and we went over to his house to hear the first radio. So I have been around. We moved when there were 3 children, and I was in the 2nd grade. We moved 2 miles over, and that house wasn't too much bigger, but we did have a room that we didn't sleep in at the other place. At the new place, it was some bigger. And then it was too far for us to walk. And there were lots of kids, you know, would have to cross the creek before the bridge was put up. So we moved to the Whitford place, and it was about 200 yards from the school. And it was at the North Pole. You know, I told you came up a hill. But anyhow, Mama didn't like that, because it was big rooms and a bigger house, but the rooms went into the hallway, and you had to go into the hallway to get here and there. It was not made the way she could do it easily. So we moved to Lithonia then, and I rode the bus 4 months from start till Christmas, and then we moved to town. where we could walk to school. And then the Depression. And if you didn't live through a Depression, did y'all? All right, Papa lost his job. No, Papa was put on part-time and he went to Elberton on a full-time job, and he hurt his wrist. And so when I was a junior, we didn't have any money much at all. Dr. Stewart's house, you know, his house was up there. I don't know why people were so nice to the Kelleys, but Dr. Stewart was just great. He let, we had to pay tuition then to go to school. It was not a county school at LITHONIA High School, at LITHONIA. And we paid $1 at Christmas and $1 to begin and $1 a month. Well, Dr. Stewart would let Papa have the money, and he would, and then they'd chop, all these little kids and go out that were big enough to chop cotton and pick cotton and whatever to pay it. That's the way we went to school, and it wasn't easy. That's the kind of doctor he was. And I don't know, he couldn't have done it for everybody, but I don't know why he did it for us. You know, you just see God's hand in everything that happened, even to a big collard patch. Papa put about 1/3 of the garden spot in collards, and they just grew and they grew and they grew and they grew. And we lived at an alley, you know, went down. I don't know if you know anything about alleys, but they went down this side, and the Negroes were down there. And one girl came here and told me she wanted to talk to me. She said, "Did you know you had an angel for a mother?" And I knew my mama was mighty good. I knew that everybody liked her. And Ora was the girl that came, and she said that she didn't know what they would have done if they hadn't come up to our house and said they wanted to buy some collars or some beans or some corn or whatever was in that garden. And said Mama would give what she bought, and then if she had any onions or tomatoes or whatever, she'd put some in. And so that's what this girl came to tell me when I moved in here, that did you know you had an angel for a mother? The fact is, I was the oldest that lived, big enough to work. And my mother needed me. It was hard for her to have that many children and want every one of us to go off and try our wings. I don't remember ever not having clean clothes, with a cow and all of those chickens and things to take care of, and cook 3 meals a day. And after we got to town, you know, the Depression was on, and people would go home with us for lunch, and Mama would have vegetables and stuff, and she never griped. She needed more help than she got. She died when she was 52 with uterus cancer. And that was sad, looking back. But while I was there, I think I was doing what I could. I was very comfortable in high school. I rode the bus for 4 months from close to the church at Rockland. And we had so many children to educate, and Mama and Daddy were, you know, they just were so educated-minded. I mean, they weren't educated, but they wanted us to have one. All 10 of us got a high school education, and all but 2 got some further education. And when you think about no money at all, you don't know how, but God had to. God had to handle it. I graduated in May. I went to Sunday school the following Sunday. Back up, I want to tell you who preached at who taught at our graduation, Peter Marshall. He had just come from Scotland, and he was preaching in Decatur, and he'd go to Covington on Sunday afternoons, and I don't know who got him, but he was there, and the only thing I remember him saying was, don't give up your dreams. Don't ever give up your dreams. Hitch your wagon to a star. That's all I remember. So that was one of my first quotes. Anyhow, I went to Sunday school the first Sunday, and a girl was going to GSCW to school. They had let me teach when the teacher was not going to be there in the 3rd grade when I was a senior. And I was the salutatorian. Anyway, this girl was going to school. And all of a sudden, I had to go to school, to GSCW with her. There wasn't any money in our house. There just wasn't any. You know, we had plenty to eat, but there wasn't any money. We had plenty to wear because my mother could take this and make something. But anyhow, Lucille Langley was going to school the next Monday a week. And I went home. I had to go. There was no way I could. I wanted to go. And my daddy says, you know, we don't have any money. And I knew we didn't, but I cried anyway. So he came in to where I was, and he said, hush crying, and I'll take you to see Uncle Euless tomorrow. I'll take you to see Mr. Rainey. He was the school superintendent. And if he'll give you a job, I will see if Uncle Euless will let you have some money. Well, we went the next day to Decatur, and Mr. Rainey gave me a job in a 2-teacher school to teach 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and I taught 3 years there in that little school. I started when I was 17 and a half. I had a boy older than me in school. Mrs. Partington came out, you know, to see about him, and he needed to go to school and learn to read, and so he was older than me. And in this 2-teacher school, you had to be the janitor. We had an outhouse. We had a well. You had to sweep, bring in your own coal, build your own fires. 17 and a half. And the first year, we had an exhibit, and we built an Indian village. In the back of we didn't have but 17 children. So in the back of the house, in the back of the room, we put pine trees on, little things like Christmas trees, and put pine straw on, and made things out of the costumes for the Indians out of crocus sacks, and put some fringe around the bottoms. I made $50 a month and couldn't go to work till October, and so I worked eight months that year and made 8 months for $400 for the year. I paid $6 to get over there to board, $9 to board, and I had $35, and I needed to pay Uncle Euless back. Well, somehow in 2 years, Uncle Euless was paid back, and I always had enough money saved to go back to GSCW, because you had to go every year. So I went to GSCW in the summer, and I went to Georgia State at night and taught school and worked at Cover's on Saturday to buy cloth to make dresses and things for the kids. And I taught there 3 years. I went to Salem on the other side of town and taught 3 years. And then we consolidated with Rockland and Klondike and Belmont and, Philadelphia, Klondike. 3 schools consolidated, and we had a great school with a great principal. And I just had a heyday there. I taught 3rd grade one year. I wanted 4th, so they didn't give me the 3rd grade the first year, but they gave me, I wanted 4th grade and they gave me 3rd. So the next year I got the 4th grade, so I taught one class 2 years. And they just were smart, and it was just so much fun. In the 10th grade, the White family, Ray White's family, gave us a Christmas party. And my cousin invited my Theron. And that was after I taught 4.5 years. I didn't see him anymore, I guess. I don't remember that I did. We had election night, and I had my car then, so I went, and it was a '29 Ford, and I went to Decatur to see if Mr. Rainey got elected. And he and his partner had come up there to see who got elected. And we met on the street and talked a little while, and then I was going by his store every day to where I was teaching, and so one day he stopped and asked me for a date. And the second date that we had, he said, "You want to go to church with me?" And that suited me great. And so that was when school started, so September till the next December 18th. We went together a year and 4 months, and on June the 6th, he gave me the engagement ring, and then from June 6th till December 18th, we were engaged. When we got ready to go get married, we went to the pastorium at Conyers and got married in front of a Christmas tree. And my sister Frances and his sister Gladys were our attendants. We didn't have a camera. We just went and got married. Didn't have any money at all to even get married. I mean, to get a trousseau and wore my sister's clothes a lot that year. But I think I had $20 to buy what I got married in, but it didn't look that bad at the time. I think I gave $11.98 for a suit, $1.98 for shoes and hat, and that sort of thing. Because, see, that was way back in '37. The Depression had hardly gotten over. But we did have an apartment rented and the furniture in and everything when we married. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life, because nobody else would have put up with me. But he let me be me. You know, he let me be me, and he was always just help. He worked my way through school, what I had not already done. The first Christmas, he gave me this secretary. And we didn't have, that was 37, and Mickey was born in 42. And I had taught school 9 years then, and we went to Montgomery for him to work, make the living, and so it was time for our children. So he was born June 42. You know, that was during the war. Because 41, we were eating dinner on Sunday, dinner on Sunday, and it came over the radio that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. So it came time for him to be drafted, and he went back to he was supposed to go to Tucker, and he went back to tell Mr. Lee, the man in charge of garages here and there, I guess. Anyhow, Mr. Lee says, will you take a letter? He says, I didn't come after a letter. Well, I'm going to send one. And so he sent a letter, and they said, Theron said, everybody in front of him was saying, I'm sorry, we got to meet our quota, we got to meet our quota. And they got to him, and they said, you're more important where you are, because there were two, Gunner Field and Maxwell Field, and the depot was there. Got supplies, kept supplies for the two things. And so he was there during the war. We moved to Montgomery after the 3 years at Murphy Kelley, and stayed there for 4 years and 3 months. And it was sat down on the friendliest corner in Montgomery, Alabama. I had met a woman on the train. Her husband worked for the train, for the company, and she came to get her husband. He was a driver. And we got in the car and talked, and on Saturday, military up the street came down and said, go to Sunday school with me tomorrow. And we did. And we went in and sat down by Elizabeth, the girl that I'd sat in the car with. And she's my best friend now. And I had lots of health problems in the hospital 2 or 3 times while we were there 4 years and 3 months. And she was always there. And she said, she prays for me every day. I don't know how in the world you could get a friend like that lasted this long, but she puts up with me. And Mrs. Burton was the Sunday school teacher. And she was the Sunday school teacher I wish I could have been. I guess I would love to have copied her. Her husband sold children's ready to wear from Monday through Friday, and she just gave her time to the 45 folks she had in her class, and every one of them felt like they were special. But anyhow, she would be at the hospital when I'd be there, probably every day, and have some flowers that she got out of somebody's yard, anybody, and give them to them. And I was having surgery, the worst I ever had. And she was there, Mrs. Burton was there, the teacher. And I told her that I wasn't going to tell her my secrets. I was already out. But anyhow, she visited me. And I visited, after we came back, she came out to to visit, to see us. And we visited her till she died. Mama was sick, and she knew she was dying, and she asked if we'd come back and look after the 3 that had not finished school. So the question was, Theron, what do you think? Well, he never grumbled or griped about moving, but Theron never hesitated. His mother had died and left a lot of children, and I guess he got used to knowing that you had to sacrifice. So we moved back in this little house that was too little for us, with a bed in the dining room and a bed in the living room, but for a while. But anyhow, and a bed in the back end of the hall. And stayed 4 years. Those last 3 children that Mama wanted to be sure that they got their education. They did graduate from high school. It wasn't easy. That was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, but it was necessary. It wasn't easy for them either, but Mama wanted them to have some supervision, and they couldn't have washed their own clothes and played basketball and all the things they did, could they? I don't think so. But anyhow, it was hard. And Theron never grumbled at all. Never. And I griped a little. I mean, I might have griped a lot. You know, I just thought sometimes, I know how hard Mom worked because I did it too. It was time for our children. Now, Mickey was born June 1942. Now he is selling long-term care insurance for MAS, M-A-A-S, and he was Salesman of the Year in the nation for MAS in 2002. Martha Marie was second. She was born October 6, 1945. She was just one of a kind, but a precious one to me. And wouldn't do, there's nothing in the world she wouldn't do for me. Martha was next, and she was born July 13, 1948. She is the secretary, or the only helper that the District of Decatur Oxford Methodist Church has, and she works for him and has for years and years. When I came back from Montgomery, I did not go back to teaching school, of course. I was still at Papa's till 49, you know, in 1949. Three of us went into business for children ready to wear. My sister, two sisters-in-law, one was Theron's sister and one was his sister-in-law. They made draperies and bedspreads, and I sold children's ready to wear. I guess till about 52 maybe, somewhere 51 or 52, and they decided that they didn't want to do it, and Theron said, "You just go back to teaching school, we'll be better off in the long run." What if I'd stayed in that store and didn't have any income now? Wouldn't it be awful? But anyhow, in 1952, after I was out of the little shop, and it was pretty close to Main Street, and it used to be a dry cleaners, and it was just a cute little shop. That's what it was, a cute little shop. We had, you know, quality stuff. But in 52, I had already, you know, stopped the store, and they called me at Rock Chapel and wanted me to come out there. They didn't have a teacher. And I said, if I could get somebody to keep Martha. Well, the Lord just sent the nicest 19-year-old girl with this bright smile and enthusiastic lifestyle, and to keep Martha, and she would walk her and she would read to her, and so therefore Martha was pretty smart, you know. Okay, so she didn't want me to work that next year, so from then till 57. I looked after the family and went to church and went to camps in the summer and took the kids and everything to Hard Labor Creek Camp. You know, we were at the First Baptist Church then. Pretty soon, they wanted somebody to go to the mission at Collinsville, the Lithonia. And Theron and I went down there, and you know, it was just such a great thing. We had a good preacher, and it was you know, they didn't feel comfortable in a big church, but they surely did like the Lord. So the highway got our building at Collinsville, and the church decided we'd bring them to Lithonia. I was bringing 2 loads and Theron was bringing 1, And because they said that, you know, it was fine if we brought them in, they had a place to go. And pretty soon there was not anybody much going. A couple of ladies were going. Maybe they'd go every Sunday, and maybe they didn't. Well, anyhow, they tore the building down, and we took them out there, and then they stopped, and they asked me to teach 7-year-olds that next year, and I accepted. 2 ladies came to me and said, if we find a place for you to have Sunday school, will you come back and teach us? And from then till years and years and years, we hunted a place. It would either be too small and you couldn't bring the children, or there wouldn't be any parking place, or you just couldn't find a place. So finally, and I know the Lord wanted us to have a place, a church for them, because He would have let me alone, and I wouldn't have just thought about it all the time and stopping here and there and asking, where can we have Sunday school here? So one day I went by the nursery on Conyers Street, and I said, could we have this, rent this on Sunday to have Sunday school? And they did. And so we had it there a year, and the next door building came for sale, and we bought that and had Sunday school there. And then the next door came for sale. The church bought that for us, and it was the Rankin House, and it was big enough for Sunday school. And we had a trailer in the back that the association owned us, and the house next door was the Shaw House, and it became available. So it's that one on the right, on the left with the steeple, and that building back there is the educational building. And some people came from Center, Alabama, or somewhere in Alabama, and put the foundation up. We did the soup kitchen and cooked their lunch every day, but they framed it up, and our men finished it. And we had a couple that just was giving their life every inch, secretary and treasurer and whatever, and they named the building for me, and it wasn't supposed to be. It should have been her, and I don't know why they did, but you know, I'm not bragging about it, because I had nothing to do with it. You know, I taught school 28 years. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I taught one day when I was at Rock Chapel. There was a thing on the bulletin board that said, if you want to teach special ed, you could go to Georgia and get a fellowship and teach special ed at Stoveview. That's the Lithonia school, grammar school. And I had 42 children that year, and they did great, but about 5 of them needed special help, and I worried my life away because I couldn't give them much special help, but I did try to get them a church where they could go to. But anyhow, I wasn't the only one. You understand that now. A lot of people helped out. And they're still helping out. We had preachers that, like Mr. Waddle, that's just worked for the railroad 45 years, and he's had plenty of money, and he believes in the Great Commission, which I'm just bent on, that we do need to go into all the world and make disciples and baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teach. And here's the second part that we as a church don't always do, and that's teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you to learn. Everything you know you're supposed to teach them. He kept those kids when I was taking 3 courses of history. The last quarter I was at Georgia State, I took off a year. And he looked after the kids to the degree that I could come home and study history till, I guess I helped to get supper. I don't remember if I did. But if I hadn't, it would have been perfectly all right with him, I think. But anyhow, the kids, I would wash the clothes and put them in a box, and they were responsible for ironing theirs. And I'd read till I couldn't see, and go to bed, and get up in the middle of the night and read some, and then get up in the, then go to, because when I asked the advisor, I went to him, and he says, all you lack is 3 courses of history. And no, I don't know if anybody can pass 3 courses of history or not. And I said, what I want if I don't try, well, I won't know till I try. So I did, and I made 3 C's. I did pass. But I was, I was 6. No, I graduated in 60, and I was 46 years old. Martha had her children right, pretty close to the time they got married. Kelley, Kelley went to Troy, and she almost came home and went to the University of Georgia, but she decided for some reason to go back, and she met her husband, the next one, in 3 years or so. Polly came, and Polly, she went to the University of Georgia, and she was smart, and she was going to be the best Spanish teacher that you could get. So she went to, in the junior class, she went to Spain and studied with the class. So she hadn't had a bit of trouble getting a good job with insurance companies because she's good in Spanish. Well, his name is Fred. Freddie, right? Nick's Jr. But they call him Spike. He went to Auburn, and he had had a computer since he was a little young boy, because his daddy had one for him. When he was a little thing, he could take a Rubik's Cube and do that. And I mean, do 2 or 3 things like that. And I guess that's the ones that can do computer. When he went to his major, and they found out that he knew a lot about it or had learned a lot from them, I don't know which. They hired him 10 hours a week. And so he does not have a job, any problem getting a job. And Tom went to the University of Georgia, and he was going to play soccer. He went out and broke his knee, and it was fixed wrong. And then they got somebody else to fix it, and I think about 5 times he's had surgery on it. He went, he'd have surgery, and then he would be on crutches, and he'd take 1 or 2 courses at a time, and it took him longer. Then his daddy took him in under his wing, and he's doing all right. His daddy, is in Chattanooga with, not Chattanooga, Knoxville, with aerial photography. That's what they do, what he does, aerial photography.
I was already a Christian and had been I was at this little church where they had 4 churches in this little circuit, and I was one of those deacons, I guess. I don't know what you called them, but they let ladies do it then. I was not married. I was in my 20s. So I was already, loving the Lord. But when I went to Mrs. Burton, and she was such a good Sunday school teacher, like you wished you could be, then I just realized that I was growing. And then the fact that she thought enough of me to come to see me and for me to come to see her, that was what was so nice about it. Then I went to the Collinsville Mission, and just having such fun with those kids, because my heroes are George Washington Carver, the little slave boy who became this great man, scientist. I remember he asked his Mrs. Washington, or Mrs. Carver, I believe it was Mrs. Carver, what made these flowers blue, because he grew flowers. And she said she didn't know, and he just said, I'll ask God. Then when he went back to Tuskegee after he had gone to Washington to cook the bread to show the flour that he made out of potatoes, and had to go to the back door, you just were so bad about that. Then he came back and went to Tuskegee when he probably could have gone anywhere to teach. He knew so much. And he said he was going to help the man further down. Well, that's why I went into special education, because they needed help. Because you can't, if they're in a regular classroom and no teacher can, with 4 or 5, no teacher can take them individually and tutor them enough to get them anywhere. So I just think that I liked that idea of helping the person furthest down. And I remember when we had the soup kitchen at LITHONIA, at our church, we made the best soup we could make for the Lord. It was good soup. I just cooked this pressure cooker thing full. A lot in it, and take it out there. And I was making it for the Lord, but I was going up and down the streets and getting anybody that could get in my car. And we had somebody doing a program while the people in the back were cooking, heating up the soup and cooking whatever they were going to do. And we had a
clothes closet that got down in the floor when you go to let somebody see the clothes. And I just took it to the back porch and there and put wires all up across here, and then when somebody would bring some good stuff, I knew who needed it, and I'd call them and say, come and see if you need any of this. And Mr. Brown went to, I forgot the name of the store that had bread, and he'd just bring boxes of bread to our back porch, and I called people in different communities and say, come and get a box of bread for your community. And then we had a food bank, and we'd go to the food bank sometimes, not all the time, because other people went. You could buy food, you know, really 12 cents a pound, I think. We were doing a lot of things, and here's what they said something about feeding my sheep when we were talking about us getting this award. You know, you'd say, Lord, what should I do today? And you know, just a thought came through my mind, feed my sheep. And you thought about Peter. The Lord asking Peter 3 times, what do you want me to do? And he said, feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep 3 times. And I said, it must be important. So I just thought that was the Lord wanting us to feed his sheep, and we tried. And you don't try just physical, you try to give them the spiritual food. And they ask what my favorite verse is. I do believe that that when the Lord lifted his arms right before he ascended into heaven and said, go into all the world and make disciples, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And then he said, if you love me, keep my commandments. And I think anything he wrote and read that he asked us to do was a commandment and not a suggestion. Well, and then you asked me what, you know, some other things that I liked. You think something that you shouldn't think, and all of a sudden you know it, because you know better. And you say, may the words in my mouth, the meditations in my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Mrs. Blanche Woodward was here, and she had a big house on her chin, and she was dying, and her favorite scripture, she sat at my table, and her favorite scripture was, so do not fear, for I am with you. Be not dismayed or discouraged or negative. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. So there's 4 things in one little verse, in one little chapter of the Bible that's got so much. He's with us. He's our God, and he'll strengthen us. And when he upholds you, I think that is, with his right hand, that's just about anything that you need. So I like to learn scripture, and then I found out that pray with praise, thanksgiving, intercession with scriptures and songs. So here's one with scripture. I learned that one that I just said. So I'm going to say, I need not fear, because you're with me. And it's booming, the thunder's booming out there. I need not be dismayed. Sometimes you lose your enthusiasm. Well, go to the doctor and tell him that you come down there because you've lost your enthusiasm, and life's no fun without it. But anyhow, I need not be dismayed, for you're my God. And every morning when I get up to go to breakfast, I need your strength. Every time I'm going to exercise and leave that class, I need your strength. See, that's what I got the candy for, to give them a piece of candy when you get through exercising. And, oh, let's see now. Oh, he said he'd help us. I will strengthen you and help you. Anything you need, ask him. What we need now in our church, we need a prayer partnership going, because that's the most powerful thing we've got. That's the most powerful thing we can do as 90-year-old folks, is pray. And I wished I knew how. I have no greater joy than to know that my children and grandchildren are following in the way. That's scripture. And I have no greater joy than to hear Kelley tell that she went to church and that she used some stuff that I sent her in an envelope to tell somebody. That's lots of fun. I want you grandchildren to feel the time and space that I can no longer feel when I go. Carry on from where I am. I have feel that I want you to prepare yourself now to feel my time and space when I'm no longer here, because it's just one generation from pagans, and we're losing ground pretty fast, aren't we? She walked her talk. Do you understand that? She walked her talk. Because that's just one little slip. You can build your reputation for years, and one bad slip will kill all your, whatever you do when you minister. Anything that you've told them. She walked her talk.